Sir, I'm sorry to do this, but we want to make sure that
You're gonna make
are heard. Yeah, and you can turn it off. You know how to do that.
I do. I will. I will. Okay. Punch it and mute it. Okay.
60 seconds.
60 seconds. All right. All right. I'm going to watch to see when we go on.
Oh, okay.
There, Moshe, there's the monitor shows you what's happening. They
Okay.
will run the cameras for you. So
Okay.
if you move, no big deal.
No, they said that I can move, and it's okay.
Right.
And I will move. Oh, yeah. You will see me.
We should have had a warm up like on regular TV.
Oh, now.
Yeah, man.
Applause.
We are actually live. We're live here atop beautiful Jordan Hall overlooking Hardaway High School and across the interstate. And today it's not Talk with Mike and Tom, but rather we are going to have a visit from a noted international scholar. But before I introduce him, I want to introduce several guests. First, in the back of the auditorium here is Ophir Aviran, the Consul General for the Southeast from Israel, so we want to recognize him. Also, the Director of Academic Affairs for the Consulate, Shelley Castaldi. A quick word on Shelley. When I called the consulate to communicate about this visit, you know, I had seen her name, Shelley Castaldi, and I knew she worked at the Israeli consulate for the Southeast, and I expected an accent, but I did not get the accent I expected. You must talk to her and hear her beautiful London accent. It's just, she is originally from Great Britain. So, anyway, we welcome Shelley, and she is certainly a wonderful colleague to have here. Our guest for today is first a faculty member at the University of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. He is in the same field that Lenore Gillum and Baltimore and I and other colleagues are in, counseling foundations and leadership area. He has chaired the Department of Education at that university and is presently on sabbatical, where he most recently returns from a visit to his native country of Peru. Now, our guest this afternoon is faced with a career decision that many great faculty members are faced with, and that is whether to remain full-time in the classroom or whether to step into the role of full-time administration. I can tell you, I can tell you those decisions are fraught with difficulties, and ultimately you have to decide which kind of service you're called to. Our guest this afternoon is an expert in multiple areas and a truly renowned international scholar. His publication list I began to run on my computer this morning, and quite frankly, 5 minutes later, it was still running. I was jealous and impressed. But let me say that among his areas, and he has experience in secondary education, in secondary education counseling. He's been out there in the field with teenagers. He's taught graduate students, you name it, he's done it. But ultimately, he is a renowned expert in the area of diversity and also tied to the idea of creativity. He is presenting some of those ideas this afternoon, not just here at Columbus State, but internationally, being web streamed. And of course, anybody who is on COEHP TV, we record them and show them over and over and over again, and there'll be finally something to replace TMT. I want to introduce you to Dr. Moshe Tatar.
Wow. Thank you so much for the introduction. As my mother said once to me, after your introduction, I shouldn't speak at all. You know, I should say, thank you for coming, and that's all. And maybe send you my CV, you know, from email and enough. Thank you so much. This visit to Columbus State University is great, has been great from the morning. What an incredible campus here and your downtown campus. What incredible institution. All my congratulations and all my higher and higher qualifications. I was born in Peru and I immigrated to Israel 31 years ago, and I just returned from Peru. So if you hear some dramatic expressions or something like that, so it's still the influence of speaking Spanish for the last 2 weeks and seeing so much telenovelas, soaps, and soap programs and so forth, and it's nice. The issue that I would like to address this afternoon is composed by 2 main topics. And since we are limited in the time that we have always, I will only refer to some aspects in each of these huge topics. One of them is the development of talent and creativity, and the second, what are the meanings of working in multicultural settings. And I won't go into the theories of creativity and talent development and so forth, but I will stress the point about what I really believe, and is the relationship that can be set between working, studying, living in multicultural settings, and the possibility that in these multicultural settings will improve, will encourage the development of different talents and the development of creativity. And since your country and my country are basically countries where people from so many cultures live together, your university, my university, students coming from different parts, from the same country, from abroad, this is a huge opportunity to take these multicultural settings and to develop within these multicultural settings more creativity and more kinds of talents with children, with adolescents, and also with students. And when I say talents, I don't want only to refer about academic talents, because we have, like an automatic way to see things in many universities. Academic, we like that idea, cognitive related talents and so forth. But there are so many other kinds of talents, and there are so many other ways and other topics and other fields where creativity can be and is relevant in our life, that I would like to encourage all of us this afternoon to think about how in our multicultural settings we can encourage the development of a variety of talents and the development of creativity. So let's begin saying something about creativity. And I'm not going, into the theory, so I took some quotes only to try to develop with you some of these ideas. Eric Fromm, very important psychologist, wrote once, creativity requires the courage to let go of certainties. And I must say, we like a certain life. We like to be in control. We like to know what is going to happen today and tomorrow and tonight. We want to prepare everything. We want to know what will be the topics of our final examinations. We want to know exactly what will be our duties when we will be school counselors working at schools. We want control. We want certainty, and that's okay. But creativity can challenge the way that we look at the world. And the thing that we need to deal with is our basic fear of failure. The feeling that, wow, if we are going to do something a little bit different, maybe it won't work. Okay. So what? Instead of that, I would like to suggest you not to be threatened by the idea that maybe we are going to try some new things to do, some different ways to do the things that we're used to do in specific ways, and to try to fight our desire to live in a personal life that is so certain, secure, and planned. The second thing, Edward de Bono, one of the most important developers of the idea of creativity and divergent thinking, if you know, convergent thinking, divergent thinking. Once he said, and it's so nice, it is better to have enough ideas for some of them to be wrong than to be always right by having no ideas at all. I won't comment. It's enough. It speaks by itself. Okay? But what threatens our desire? And we have that desire. I can see in your eyes. We have that desire to make things a little bit different or really different in our life, in the lives of our students, in the way that we write, in the way that we work as professionals, and so forth. There are so many things that stop us within organizations, within our families, within our personality traits and structure that do not allow us to even try to be a little more creative today. For example, and I'm not, saying that I have all the answers. How many times have we heard from others or from ourselves, no? I'm not saying you're wrong, but, maybe next time. Now's not the right time. It's so nice. So when is the right time, Okay. Good thought, but impractical. Okay? And I can quote, Donald Supers. So many people have, the next quote is like, there is nothing more practical than a good theory. So that's really, if you have a good theory, you can, that's very practical. Fourth, let's give it more thought. We did all right without it before. Why to try? And the one that I, put it in bold because I have heard it, but in Hebrew, okay? Let's form a committee, Let's think about that. Let's all sleep on it, And maybe we do not need to wake up. We need to sleep on it a little more, to take some pills, to really sleep on it, Okay. So these are the ways that people, speak about how not to be creative and how to be certain, but, doing again and again what once many people said, and Wickland, the great psychologist said, doing more of the same. That's good, more of the same. We are so sure that we are doing okay. Maybe we are not doing okay, but we know what we are doing. So let's do it again. And again, and again. Okay. Now, from one side you have all the ideas of creativity and talent development. From the other side, we have really the challenge of living in plural societies. And I would like to make to try to explain a difference between, at least in the way that I conceptualize that, between what is a plural society and what is a multicultural society. Okay? A plural society is composed by a variety of cultures or cultural groups. We here are in a plural meeting, in a plural class. People came here from different cultures, from different backgrounds. That's all. But it doesn't make us to be multicultural. It doesn't make immediately this class to be multicultural, because multicultural is a policy, a way to see the plural groups as those that respect and encourage cultural retention as part of the norms of the group, of the institution, of the class. So the most important condition for developing a multicultural organization, class, etc., is having a plural class, a plural group. It's okay, but it's not enough. Now we need to do many other things so that we will develop together a multicultural setting, a multicultural organization. And it's really a challenge. It's not something that you can say, okay, you have people from many cultures, okay, maybe they can play together, soccer or football or something, okay, they're doing multicultural work. No, they are playing, they are doing some kind of plural work, but to be multicultural is a challenge that you need to invest, to develop, and to work through up to the state or to the stage that you really feel that you are encouraging cultural retention and expression of the different backgrounds inside as an input to the class, to the institution, to the organization. And in my country, you know, Israel, you know, being different culturally, you know, culturally different, it's not an issue that it's so easy, you know, to pick. It's like, okay, I was born in Peru, okay, and I live in Israel. Shelley was born in London, in Britain, and she lives in Israel. Ofer was born in Israel, and he lives in Israel. So, if we come together, so if we come together, our driver, Bruce, he was born in the States, and he lived in the States. So we were together, you know, for 2.5 hours driving from Atlanta. And so we were in the car with a plural car. We were not a multicultural car. Okay. And it's interesting because, you know, the way that people look at you and identify you. Like 2 years ago, I was going into a mall in Israel, and in every mall, you know, there are security guards, you know, checking whatever you bring, and it doesn't matter if you were born in Israel, in Peru, in Britain, and, you know, everyone is going to be checked. So he checked, you know, my suitcase, okay, and he said to me something in Russian, and he said something, and I answered to him, you know, in Hebrew, and I said to him in Hebrew, I will translate that for you, I think that is better. And I said to him in Hebrew, I'm sorry, but I don't understand Russian. He looked at me with a very angry face, and he said in Hebrew, why are you so mad about our culture? Why don't you speak Russian? Why are you ashamed to be what you are? And I told him, I'm Peruvian. That's the only reason. But why his question was addressed to me like that? Because I look in Israel until the moment that I open my mouth and everyone can hear my very exciting Spanish pronunciation. I look like a Russian. So he has his right, you know, like, okay, you're Russian, I will, you know. So even this conversation between me and between the security guard was not a multicultural meeting. It was a plural meeting and a cultural misunderstanding, of course, of course. I was able to tell him, yes, I'm going now to, you know, to learn Russian only so that, you know, and I'm sorry that I forgot all my Russian. I was ready to do almost anything. So this difference between a plural society and a multicultural society are very important, and we must look at the different contexts that affect, that are related to the development and to understanding of multiculturalism, but they are also relevant for the understanding of the development of talents and the development of creativity. And there are three contexts. First of all is the ideological and national context. What are the ideas? What are the stereotypes? What kind of budget is allocated for the different ideas? What are the policies? And I think that it's enough. And all my examples will be relevant to some extent to your reality and some of yours to my reality. But that's the ideological, the national policy, allocation of resources, and so forth. If you want to promote multiculturalism, you need to plan and you need to allocate the resources so that you can encourage cultural encounters between different groups and giving multicultural contents to classes, to schools, to universities. Second, at the second level, is the way academic and professional, and I'm speaking about university and colleges, the ways that we prepare our school counselors, our teachers, the ways that we train them, what are the values that they are taking from these institutions to their work. If we teach them only through the lens of monocultural theories, and then we expect of them to be great with multicultural classes. Oh, this is a gap that they are not able, to fill it alone. If we mean that we want to develop multicultural awareness, multicultural knowledge, multicultural skills, and all the elements in school counseling, in psychology, in training teachers. So we need to offer them the opportunities to be trained, to know, to feel, to learn the different kinds and the different topics. Third, at the level of the institution itself. It's nice. I have been prepared with multicultural competences. I go into a school with a monocultural curriculum with only one way to do things. So the organizational culture of the specific school, of the specific institution, affects really, and in very important ways, the possibility that a multicultural setting will exist or will prevail or not. And the same with creativity and the development of talents. You need an ideological national context that will promote that. You need an academic and professional training and preparation that will promote that. I have visited your downtown campus. It's impressive. You have the infrastructure. You have done a great work. Now you need to attract the students and to attract the faculty, or to continue to attract students, continue to attract the faculty, so that in practice you will take advantage of what you have advanced in buildings and in programs and in curriculum. And the same at the level of the school. Now I want to say, so that it will be clear, multicultural settings are maybe the best context for developing creativity and the development of different talents. And that will be my main message, and I will develop it in the following minutes. We have organizations from many kinds. Okay? Sorry. Okay. We have organizations from many kinds. We have what we call monocultural organization. I don't know if you know an organization that looks like this. Excludes members of specific groups? Maybe not. That's not politically correct now. Okay. Implicitly and explicitly supports a specific kind of culture? I know some, no? The dominant culture, the values of some group that is the dominant culture? Maybe. There are monocultural organizations, there are non-discriminatory organizations. That is, an organization that shows greater tolerance toward other groups, that the climate is less hostile to other cultural groups, that recognizes that there are problems among members of different cultures when they come together, but that's all. That's the stage of the organization. And eventually, there are multicultural organizations. Organizations that values cultural diversity in the organization, understands and supports. It's not enough theory. Understands and supports. That is cognitive behavior. Okay? The contribution of cultural pluralism to reach common and even higher achievements. I don't know, like 10 or 12 years ago, my family visited the Coca-Cola, industry, in Atlanta. What a visit. And my son, was so happy that at the end, of your visit, you can taste Coke, from any kinds of country. And he went to the Israeli Coke and he said, I know that. And then, he was 10 years old and he tasted the Chinese Coke, so sweet that he said, how can they drink that? And so forth and so forth. When we were talking about, my daughter was very impressed. She doesn't say that in the words that I'm quoting, but she meant that. Look, Papi, how they are culturally sensitive. Every culture, every country with its own taste. And I said, yes, they are cultural sensitive, But that's the only way to sell Coke in China, to sell Coke in Israel, and to sell, I don't know, in other places. So we can be culturally sensitive and creative when we need to do, like because we need to sell, because we need to encourage something. And that's okay. That's great. But we don't need to wait to the situations that we need to take advantage of some kind of selling or so forth. We can try to encourage that from the beginning. At least it's a kind of adventure that it's worth it to take, okay? Because it pays, and it pays good. There are many approaches toward diversity, okay? And I will say it, you know, briefly and very, you know, and quickly, you know. Approaches like those developed by Osley and others, you know, that divide the diversity, the approaches to diversity, and compares between a progressive approach to diversity, equity, access, and support for diverse groups, as compared to a much more conservative, you know, approach where meritocracy or seeing diversity as a conflict, and so forth. A second, okay. A second approach toward diversity that tries to analyze from the perception of human resource, okay? The ideas of how to compare. You cannot see what is written there. That's okay. That was the idea, that you will be impressed by the idea that I'm quoting people, and they will say, wow, my God, how many theories did he have? Okay. Okay. The idea is, okay, the strategic responses, the different strategic responses of an organization toward diversity. To be reactive, to be defensive, to be accommodative, or to be proactive. Okay, and I'm sorry. The third, and even though you cannot see that, it's enough. It's a very well-known model. I'm sorry, please. Please. That's the model of Olvino and Sue, all the people that have studied counseling and so forth. Okay, please. Multicultural organization development, the idea that you go from a monocultural organization to through a multicultural education setting. Okay, what are the steps that you need to take? And this idea is great, but it's supposed, you know, it's the main idea is that all organizations will go from being monocultural to being multicultural. No. That's the ideal. That's the, you know, I don't know, the illusion. But most of them are not there. A fourth model is, you know, and it's only, I wanted to show you only this part, a model that we developed in Israel with my very good friend and colleague Gabi Orenchik, about 4 kinds of attitudes that we found also in the military and also in schools by interviewing teachers and interviewing soldiers and interviewing officers and principals and so forth. 4 kinds of attitudes that people have, officers and professionals, toward diversity. And we saw, really, we were able to identify 4 attitudes, okay? The most frequent one was the one that thinks about diversity as a problem, okay? What are we going to do in this class that we have 2 Mexicans in class? How are we going to resolve the problem? It's like their problem, okay? We need to resolve, you know. And I can make the same, you know, the same examples with our immigrants and so forth. So we're going to resolve the problem by translating something, giving them to read something in Spanish or so forth. But there is a problem we need to solve. Okay, that's a responsive way, but aren't we missing something? You know, we are looking at this diversity as a disadvantage, like, you know. Okay. Second is the idea, nice idea, that diversity may be a challenge, something that can be used for the development of new things, of different things. That's good. Third, the one that I like the most, but it's like, you know, I also like sugar and chocolate and I cannot eat too much. So it's like one thing that I like that we saw in some organizations, but in too few, in too few institutions. That is to look at the diversity as an asset and say, we have here a plural group. We give the support to express different ideas. How can we take advantage of this diversity so that it will be an asset for our school, for our university, for our group? And fourth, the attitude that was the most intriguing one was one that we call it a non-issue attitude. And it was so nice. We were interviewing a principal about the number of immigrants that he have or something like that, and he said, why are you asking? Are there any problems? Have you heard any problems? And I said, no, but I wanted to see how many you have, what are you doing? And it's okay. So why to raise the issue? Or like we say in Hebrew, don't open your mouth. Don't open your mouth, you know. Because if you open your mouth afterwards, now it will be an issue. What? It will be a problem that we need to solve. And this attitude of non-issue is very, it's very appealing. It's like, I treat all of them equal. Although these immigrants do not understand me, they don't, the parents do not come to school, they don't know, but excellent. Non-issue, like, okay. No one has, you have any claim about that? Are you complaining? No. So why? It's something like that. These are main attitudes. I would like to convince you that it's worthy to try to understand diversity as a challenge, if not as an asset, but of course as a challenge. I don't have enough time. In one investigation that we did with teachers, okay, interviewing teachers, Israeli teachers, about their views regarding multiculturalism. And these were more than 400 teachers working in schools with higher percentages of immigrants studying there. And only two findings. One, we asked them whether they support pluralism or assimilation. Assimilation is, that every immigrant ASAP will be Israeli or will be American. Okay? And pluralism in the way of multiculturalism, giving them the right to express, to reflect their cultures. And the incredible thing that we found was that when they were speaking in general about the Israeli society, most of them, the teachers, said and claimed, yeah, we support pluralism. Immigrants should express their own views, their different ways to see that. Yeah, why not? But some pages afterwards, the ways that we, administer questionnaires, same questions but in different pages, so they don't remember what you asked them, But several pages afterwards, we asked them the same question, but now about your school. Do you support in your class pluralism or assimilation? Look what happened. Most of the teachers said, look, at class, I don't have the time to be culturally sensitive. I don't have the resources to be culturally, sensitive, and so forth and so forth. And this kind, of difference is like, one is the theory in general in society, and one is in practice. What are you doing? It's like, who supports multicultural issues? Yes. Who is teaching in his class, introducing some kind of multicultural topics? It's tough. I don't know where. That's the difference. And I will encourage all of us to introduce not only theory, but also in practice, more and more cultural diverse issues. I'm skipping one or two. Okay. Or four. Okay. Two main ideas. One, now trying to go into my main issue, the link between multiculturalism and creativity, and I wrote it very, in a very simple way, and so forth. Gregory will suggest the following, and it's so easy, so simple, but in my opinion, so true. Different cultures foster different perceptions. If you have together people coming from different cultures, in many things, they will think different. In their expressions, in their language, they will express differently to different stimulus. So if you have a plural group, a multicultural group, you will get different ideas. Not in everything, but in many topics, if you encourage them to talk from their cultural background, you may have and you may hear different perceptions about counseling, about parenting, about art, about. The culture affects not only the context of our thinking, but also influence its processes. The different experiences lead us to think differently. Second, different perception foster creativity. Different perception produce or generate many times the need to learn, to change and renew. And these are the two so simple and easy ideas. Gathering together people from different cultures, you will get different perceptions. If you organize systematically different perceptions, you can foster creativity. Creativity is not only the way that Picasso and other writers and creators, that once they have an idea. Creativity is also a daily challenge to solve problems and to encourage different things. And third, the conclusion is diverse cultures foster creativity. At least they have the basic foundation for fostering creativity. Then, through the processes that we know from cognitive psychology, and I don't have the time to go into them, through accommodation, through elaboration, through transformation, all the things that we do with the stimulus when we receive them, and especially transformation, that is the continuous experimentation, making the needed change that you need to do until you have the new product, the different one. And we don't need to be afraid. We are not afraid to fail. It's okay. The recommendations of Waddell are to develop an organizational culture that integrates different cultural values in the same organization. There are main values, but we can add some values, and it's okay. Nothing will happen. To encourage learning through dialogue. Dialogue between people that do not agree. Dialogue between people that do not come from the same culture. It cannot be that one teacher will say, they have all of them the same questions. If you answer to one, everyone said, yeah. All of them agree. It's like, we like consensus and we like that. No, maybe dialogue. And even more important than that, dialogue with people that think different than we think. That's okay. And third, to develop and implement a philosophy of synergy, of complementing thoughts from people from different cultures. Second, a second way to see that complements the one, is the great work of Angela Leung and her colleagues about how multicultural experience enhances creativity. We get ideas from other cultures that we didn't know. And even if we don't work with people coming from other cultures, when we travel, abroad, we face so many challenges, or how to do things, or how different cultures relate to different things, that we can learn new ideas, to be open to new ideas, and to develop less conventional thinking. And it's okay. Most of our lives are very conventional, and it's okay. I agree. But here and there, you can begin to change, and really, as teachers, as counselors that work in plural settings, they need to be creative not because it's nice. It's because the only way to work in multicultural settings. Because if you don't work like that, if you are very conventional, maybe you will feel that you are very professional, but you are not relevant to them. And that's the issue. Okay. It's not enough, as I said at the beginning, to be technically exposed to various cultural groups. What is needed is to make the adaptation and to develop the cognitive and behavioral readiness for being open to new experiences. Two things that are great limitations, and we are universities in yours, universities, in my universities, and in the different schools, you know. Always the tasks that require a clear and single answer, only one answer, you know. Don't be creative, you know. Repeat what I have said in class, because that's the answer, you know. Read my lips, you know, exactly what I said. Okay. Or those limited by time, you know. Ah, you want to write more? Yeah, 10 minutes, that's all, you know. So put it all together. I told you that I am Peruvian, so Mario Vargas Llosa, just the last, do you know him? Nobel Prize in Literature, 2010, okay, please. So I quote him in English, you know, and he said something that I really think that he gives the answer for all my talk, and is, you cannot teach creativity how to become a good writer. Of course not. But you can help a young writer discover within himself what kind of writer he would like to be. And the issue is, you cannot teach creativity, but you can try to create the conditions and the context that will encourage such kind or this kind of creativity. The roles of us as professionals in the work of creativity and talent are the following. And it depends what is our role, if we are teachers at university, teachers at schools, or parents. First of all, to identify creative and talented children, and not only academically talented, but all the kinds and types of talent. Identifying and to refer to others, of course. We are not the professionals that need to take care of them, but we need to identify the characteristics. And or to reinforce specific ways of thinking from our kids, from our students, being more flexible, being more open to new experiences. That's a great way to encourage creativity. Third, to support appropriate context, those that encourage creativity, those that are beyond the limitations that we put on them. Fourth, opting for a strategy that sees cultural diversity as an asset or an advantage for the organization, and also as a great base for developing talents and creativity. And last, transforming educational institutions into enterprises that value diversity. And I would like to end and to say that I think that this sentence summarizes everything. And next time that I'm invited, if I have only 20 seconds, I will say, okay, read Albert Einstein, it's enough. And he wrote once, and I think that he was great. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. We need the intuitive mind, and we need the rational mind. They need both of them to work together. We have so many challenges that we face as educators, as parents, as professors, that we need both of them. Toda Rabba. Thank you very much. Questions, please?
You had a slide with the number of schools that, or teachers that you found perceived, you know, the shift where you showed the perception.
These are the average of their answers, but not the numbers of teachers. Yes. Okay. Really, I don't know how to get. Hello. We are going. Okay. So that's the average. You know, that's the average of the responses of the teachers relating to preferring to adopt a plural approach to immigrants than an assimilative one when you speak in terms of general, and you know, all the other way when you speak specifically about what to do in schools, at schools. And I'm not criticizing the teachers, because I will answer the same, you know. In principle, diversity is excellent. In practice, it's tough. It's really tough. You need to prepare yourself and to do your best. Please. Yeah, please.
How would you think we would do if you would administer the same survey to this crowd right here?
What will be the answer?
Yeah, would be the similar.
I think that these days, I don't want to say, the idea of pluralism, you know, is really politically correct, you know. You don't speak against pluralism. It's like, okay, no?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, do you think that?
Yeah,
Let's see. Yeah, we agree. Why not? People have the right.
But then, you know, it becomes
I'm not so sure, you know. people are smiling like saying, oh, he bought the story. Oh.
So the practical part of the question is, since I do believe that we all in principle agree,
I think so.
and we would have easy time agreeing on general ideas. But then I'm not sure how well we would do in practicalities, and I'm not sure how able would we be to implement.
But sorry that I stopped. What's your name?
Tesla.
I want to tell you something. When you go into practicalities, okay, I'm not saying that it's a, or you are 100% multicultural or you are not a multicultural at all. No, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
But there are specific things that you can do. In your class, for example, some of the contents of your class can be of a kind that stresses multicultural issues. Some of the theories that you're presenting to your students here at the university or in your classes can be, examples given different names. One teacher, said to me in Israel, taking the most simple, example, so simple that you are going to say, Moshe, that's not a good example. No, that's a good example. When you write an arithmetic, problem that Moshe went to, take a train from A to B, and the other from B to C, when are they going to meet? That this kind of, okay. In Israel, we don't have enough trains, so it's enough, But instead of Moshe, we have so many Russian kids. Can it be once Yuri takes a train and Muhammad, an Arab kid, train? At least you can and that is in the simplest level. Why are always the same names of the dominant culture that you put and introduce in your examples? Not to speak about history or about religion. Knowing others is not a threat. It's a great base for understanding. And as I always said, you can understand and do not agree. That's okay. You don't need to agree to all the values of other culture. And the way that you want to show that you don't agree is not to know and not to understand even a little bit about the other culture. So you can do a list of 10, 20, 30 kinds of things that you can introduce gradually into your curriculum from this, sorry to say, silly example that I did, changing the names, introducing some concepts. Why not? Why not? Yes, sir.
Female teachers, were they more sensitive to male teachers, or male teachers more sensitive to female teachers? All right, was there at some point just teachers in general as practitioners said, I just cannot do this?
Great. The answer is like that. In gender, by gender it's a little tough because in Israel, most of the teachers are female teachers, really. Although in high schools, there are more male teachers than in the elementary school, but so forth. But those that were much more tolerant were the homeroom teachers. And I can understand, because the homeroom teachers were much more sensitive, but the teachers that teach, for example, math or physics, that they need to be multicultural, they need to relate the multiculturalism to specific topics. Now, I do not expect that teachers will create all these great ideas of how to teach in multicultural terms. They need to be prepared, trained, and committees, do you remember committees? Committees will need to suggest programs, that will include multicultural issues. I really do not expect that a teacher that I just heard that in Georgia they are so well paid. It's a joke. Now, as compared to Israel, because teachers that work so hard with so many kids, now I'm telling, I'm saying to them, now from tomorrow you are going also to include multicultural and cultural issues by yourself in your, I don't know, where, how. So they need to be trained and they need to be guided, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But homeroom teachers were much more, tended to be flexible and to see at least that to be culturally sensitive and to support multiculturalism was better.
Do you think that was because maybe and I don't know if this came in the study, but maybe the homeroom teachers had to get to know the child
differently. Exactly. They need to work with them not only in the academic, section of their brain, but with the kids as a whole, as kids. Yes. And they have much more contact with the parents. And when you know the parents, you need to be much more culturally sensitive and to think that that is a good idea.
That's it.
How much are your
I don't have a question, but
yes, please.
I could see many things that you talk about being related to a class I had once on campus here. It was called a race-related class, and the professor, who was originally from Africa, what she did in her class, each of us were in the class, she allowed us to study, to take on the very form and the culture of the country that we were studying. And initially, there were students who said, why do I need to study that? Why do I do that?
Of course.
And at the end, it was such a great transformation that occurred in the class. How they didn't understand, because they talked about the cushion and the full factors and all these various things, assimilation, and about the various religion, ethnic discord that exists within countries and stuff like that. And it opened their eyes just to understand that, things that are happening within the United States. Countries have similar things, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. And the class was a transformed class.
Exactly. So I can understand completely and even agree that at the initial stage is there some kind of, what's that all about? And that's okay. That's okay. And at the end, there is a kind of transformation. Do you remember the process? Transformation also in the ways that you think. Can I make a suggestion? Maybe most of the students need to take such kind of courses. Do you understand? That's the only thing. That's the only thing.
Another thing that I find on campus that they're trying to do, every month they host this thing called dialogue. They talk about dialogue.
Yeah.
We have that on campus here. That occurs at the International Center, and we have international students and local students can come together, and there are topics that we can talk about. There's no right or wrong answer, but it opens students to understand, okay, what are the perceptions,
exactly,
and ideologies.
And in the States, and I agree with you, but in the States, like in Israel, you don't need international students to have in your class a plural class. Right. Is it okay? Right. You don't need international students add a different angle, and it's okay, great. But you don't need that, It's enough to pick, any class, and you will have enough differences, cultural differences, that you can introduce, at least to some extent. And my main point is that if you introduce that, and you encourage the students to speak also about the cultural issues, not only about their own families, but how do your culture relate to empathy, to coping styles, to ways to teach, speak. Maybe you don't behave like that. Ask your parents, ask your grandparents, bring into the class as input. Let's discuss. Let's say, that's a good idea. No, that's not a good idea. No, it's not allowed now. No, wow, I didn't think like that. So it's the relation between being plural and multicultural, and from your multicultural perspective, trying to encourage thinking a little bit different about different things. Coke tastes so different in different cultures. Okay? It's good business to be multicultural. Thank you.
We want to thank you, Dr. Tatar,
thank you so much
for just bringing all these ideas to us. I think we've heard first, a lot of great research ideas, and second, a lot of practical application for those. So just one more recognition for our guest, Dr. Tatar.
Thank you very much.
And again, want to thank Shelley for bringing Dr. Tatar and the Consul General here. Thank you, Shelley. And Consul General, we just appreciate you coming, and hope this is just the beginning of a relationship between us and your consulate, and also Columbus and Columbus State in Israel. So thank you very much. All right, so from COEHP TV, thank you very much to our audience, and we'll see you next time.
Funny question.
Yeah.
Will the rise? Thank you very much. Will the rise in